Hey guys, it's Tom Bucks. Thanks for tuning into MST.TV. Now I've got 6 side deck techs for you guys to choose for your national side deck or your WCQ side deck. I know it's right around the corner, and I guess we're nearing the end of the format as well, so this will be the last side deck tech that I will talk about for, I guess, this format, and then I'll do another whole ultimate counter guide for the next upcoming format so that we'll be ready for that when that happens. So consider pledging $1 or $2 on the Patreon link down in the description below, because it really helps out and I get a lot more time to kind of play around with different cards. And these are the ones that I've tested. A lot of these are from big name duelists like Fazil Khan, Jesse Khan. They are the ones that showcase the deck, so shout outs to these guys for performing very well. And I guess I got a chance to test out these techs. So the techs I'll be following through with is Psy-Framegear Gamma, Spell Canceller, we have Epidemic Virus, No Material, Chaos Hunter, and Abyss Dweller. So those are the 6 cards I will be talking about. Well, what about Artifact, Lancea, Twin Twister, Denko Sekka? Well, for those 3 cards, I'm just automatically going to suggest that put 3 Lanceas in your deck right now and put 3 Twin Twisters if you haven't considered already, because it is very crucial. They are the most useful ones to see, and I don't see anything wrong with those. And if you're playing a combo deck and you don't like dealing with backrow, Denko Sekka might be another option for you. So I guess technically your side deck slot only has about 6 to 9 slots available, and you have to choose very carefully. So these are the 6 that I would suggest you guys try and run. Oh, one more thing for my Patreons out there: Battle Wasp proxies are out, so you guys go ahead and check it out. If you guys want to suggest proxies, consider joining my Patreon, as you guys can make the suggestions. I know Rockets are going to be the next one. Marine Cess also going to be early access for Patreons, only for a little bit before they become public. So yeah, stay tuned for that as well. And let's just jump into this. Okay, for our matchup up top, we have True Draco, Subterror, Salamangre, Danger Thunder, Sky Striker, and Orcus. And for our 6 techs that you guys can consider putting into your side deck for this coming weekend, we have Spell Canceller, Chaos Hunter, Gamma, Epidemic Virus, No Material, and Abyss Dweller. On the first column is just going to be special notes why they're so strong, and let's kick it off with Spell Canceller. I know Spell Canceller isn't the most ideal side deck card, but it is a complete blowout towards Sky Striker. But why is it? So first of all, I want you guys to know about the DR1, the Dark Revelations errata. That errata changes the card text quite a bit from the original print. It took away 2 words, face up. It took away the face up wording so that all spell effects are negated. That is a very key line, rather than all face up spell effects are negated. So stuff in the graveyard will also not activate. You'll need to know this DR1 errata, as that is the latest wording for that particular card. It only comes on ultra rare, so that's why this card is a bit more pricey than most. But anyways, let's bring it down the line in terms of how it fares against various matchups. Starting with True Draco. Unfortunately, it's not very good against True Draco. In fact, it's not very good against many of these matchups. For True Draco, the big problem is that if you just tribute a trap, you will pop that Spell Canceller. And Spell Canceller by base, in terms of space stats, isn't even stronger than most of your monsters. So there is no real fear against Spell Canceller. I guess it's pretty annoying if you don't have your monsters early on. You can't use your field spell, but that is usually rendered irrelevant for the most case. So yeah, nothing to really fear. But if you have Spell Cancel out, your back row is basically protected from being popped by spell effects from them activating in the graveyard. Moving on to the next one, we have Subterror. Guru can play around it completely. You can just summon out a Guru and just book them both face down. Spell Cancel will not hinder you from playing your hidden cities, and that is the real key point of spells in terms of Subterror. You have your Pot of Extravagance, you have pot plays to draw cards, gain card advantage, but then as long as they have a Subterror Guru, they can just knock it face down, and that's no longer an issue. So that's why it's not very good. And being a 3-of in the deck, there are just so many ways to just kind of bypass Spell Cancel, and you can still just use traps to play around most of these things. Then we have a Salamangre. It's just not very good. The Mirage Tally will just bounce, and eventually you can still play the field spell. Not much to stop you. I guess you stop the Signet Mining while it's still up. And the stats of Spell Cancel is high enough to hold its own. 1800 is funny enough, it's usually like a typical normal summon stat, but it is strong enough to hold its own against most of the Salamangre plays, because Mirage Tally will just bounce the card back into your hand and they get free play from that point forward, and most of the threats after that point would be coming from the traps. So Spell Canceller's interaction not exactly the most ideal. Then we have Danger Thunder Dragon. Yeah, we don't really play any spells except for one of them, and Chaos Dragon Levianeer is a well-versed popper, as well as most of my monsters are just stronger, and even Danger Bigfoot can just pop it if it's really becoming an issue, and even then, that is considered a bad play for the Danger Thunder Dragon player. Then we have Sky Striker. You will kill Sky Striker if you have this. The only out they have against this is Impermanence. If they don't have Impermanence, they are locked out from everything. They can't use the effects in the graveyard, such as, say, if you send the Area 0 into the graveyard, they won't even summon out a Ray anymore. That's how bad it is. They can't even activate Metal Force Fusion. They're locked out. They can't play Engage. They can't play anything. And that is completely just going to be one-sided if that happens. So keep that in mind. It blows out, even turns off the Mystic Mind. That is a problem. So you don't have a card to blow up Mystic Mind. Well, that's okay. You can just summon a Spell Cancel. What are they gonna do? Metaverse another copy out? It doesn't even matter at that point. So if you're playing a deck that is weak to Mystic Mind, consider Spell Canceler as one of your top outs. Then we have Orcus. Now, I know that Orcus, they also play Mystic Mind to some degree. They can just set rotation it out, and in that case, yeah, Spell Canceler is pretty good. However, they do play the Fog Blade. You can turn off your Spell Canceler, and if you're going first, it is a decent card. I'm going to be fair, because they have the triple engage to, I guess, to get into the token, or they also have the multiple field spells, and they also play the Trickstar engine, which starts off with a field spell. By having Spell Canceler, you completely knock most of those out of the water, so they have to answer to Spell Canceler first, and if you can protect that Spell Canceler, it can potentially skip your opponent's turn, leaving them with a relatively weaker board than what they normally are able to establish. So that's why Spell Canceler is still something that you can consider to use if you don't have a better option against Orcus. Otherwise, I suggest using some of these other options. Kicking into next is Chaos Hunter, one of my favorite cards in the format right now. I can't believe I didn't really use this card. Remember how Artifact Lancea is really good against most of the combo-based matchup? Well, Chaos Hunter is basically one that is one-sided and a bit more permanent. If you have Chaos Hunter, you can still play your Call by the Grave to banish your opponent's cards, which is very, very nice. Now, against True Draco and Subterra, it does absolutely nothing. It's a 2500 body, but the thing is, True Dracos can handle a 2500 body, and Subterra, well, can book you face down. But then, to be honest, Subterras don't exactly care whether or not they're locked into the graveyard or not, so no issues there. The effect is completely irrelevant. But when it comes to Salamangreat, then we start getting into a bit more interesting territory. Like, Salamangreats, they do not depend on banishing, and there is like a drawback when you use Chaos Hunter. If they reset the counter trap by using its own effect, now the counter trap will not get banished anymore. They get to reset it over and over again. But one thing that you do get to use against the Salamangreat player is that they can no longer use Balings to banish and protect the board, and your opponent cannot use Call by the Grave to stun out some of your plays. There's two things about that, and not to mention you have a 2500 body by base, which means you can run over most of your opponent's monsters just by attacking, so naturally it will start netting you card advantage just from attacking. So against Salamangreat, it's funny enough, it does have some interaction against them. Then you have Danger Thunder Dragon. It is pretty devastating, in my opinion, to deal with this kind of crap, because it's honestly just another Lancea. You can't use your white or black dragons, you can't use Thunder Dragon Duo, you can't use Chaos Dragon Levianeer. Those are some of the biggest cards in there. So you can go into a Saryuja and you can make danger plays, you can make Thunder Dragon plays, but even for your Thunder Dragon plays, you can't really banish any of those Thunder Dragons, so you can't protect your Thunder Dragon Colossus. You're still susceptible to just like a single Raigeki and you're gonna die. And without White or Black Dragon, it's gonna be very difficult to go into the Guard Dragon combo, and basically struggling to establish the initial 4 monsters to get into the Saryuja, or even just struggling to get into the Guard Dragon package to some degree. So that is why Chaos Hunter is very annoying. So, and their only out is to go into that Unicorn if they don't have a Bigfoot to clear it. And 2500, the only way you can really run it over is to go into a Thunder Dragon Colossus to just ram it, or use Bigfoot. You just need some of the big monsters that it does become more difficult to try and pilot through a Chaos Hunter being on board. It's just like eating a Lancea. If you eat a Lancea, your board is not going to be very strong. And In terms of Sky Striker, don't use it against Sky Striker. They'll get infinite resources for a little bit, and they're like, thank you for the Chaos Hunter. I'm just gonna abuse all my effects, and then multi-roll will just put everything back, and I won't lose any tempo whatsoever because I'll still have enough spells in the graveyard, and I get to reuse them. So they won't lose any of their engages whatsoever. And Orcus, it's really good, but keep in mind, you don't drop this card at whatever point you want. You have to make sure when you drop the Chaos Hunter, they can't go into a Dingirsu to send it to the graveyard. You want to make sure that they are completely crippled. So the ideal timing for this card is actually to summon it during Bardiche. If they summon a Bardiche, the honest interaction here is the moment they summon a Bardiche, they've sent Galatea and their symbol skeleton into the graveyard. If you drop the Chaos Hunter now, they can't do very much. The only thing you're going to have to answer to is one Fogblade if they have no follow-up. If they have a follow-up, then that's different. But if they don't have a follow-up, they can't use impermanence or anything because honestly, most of them don't run hand traps. But if they want to interrupt you, they have to somehow negate that Chaos Hunter to get that banisher, summon most of the stuff, and then get rid of your Chaos Hunter altogether. And that's a pretty big part of the game. So why is it only like one Fogblade? It's because they can't banish the Ancient Cloak, they can't banish the boots. So the only thing that they got is originally from the Bardiche, and that is all. And not being able to summon back the Galatea, that means there's no Dingirsu, which means the stuff, everything's kind of stuck in the graveyard, and they're just going to Fogblade you on their turn, and then they can revive, I guess, a Galatea, but then there is no Dingirsu, so where's the real threat at that point? So it is still really, really good. And I guess, like, yeah, sure, Lancea, if you just drop it on them early, they can't really get rid of it, and then their turn basically ends. But Chaos Hunter, if you do it on their turn, they have to waste most of their resources getting rid of the Chaos Hunter, and then you have a free reign on your own turn to deal damage to your opponent or having some sort of impact onto the field. Next, we have Gamma. One key thing about Gamma to note is that, like, Psy-Framegear Gamma compared to all the other hand traps, is the one hand trap that can't exactly be Called by the Grave. And the Called by the Grave being so popular in so many of these decks, Gamma is just like, well, I'm not affected, so what are you gonna do about it? So one key part is it cannot be Called by the Grave. I guess the second key point is it removes the monster, it destroys it in a format where even if you negate something, the body itself is a form of resource which can connect into another play. Gamma removes that monster, is basically breaking that connection, and that, I think, is very, very crucial. So against True Draco, it does have some application, especially when they try to get a search effect or try to put a spell or a trap onto the field. You can just Gamma them, and that's the end of that. And because it is an effect destruction, the Dragonic Diagram will not be able to protect it, which is fairly nice. Then we have Subterror. Subterror is a bit more difficult because that deck naturally runs a lot of counters. They're built to counter your plays. So the only way for you to use Gamma is that you have to bait and negate. Bait and negate is the only way because you have to stop these the Fiendess from negating you, and the best thing to use the Gamma is on the Fiendess. So the only way for you to do it is that you're playing spells and traps to get that negation because you can't have any monsters for it. But that's the only timing that you would really have for the Subterror. For Salamangreats, you can use it on the Gazelle, just don't let the mill kill off their monster. And yeah, that's basically it. Pretty simple stuff. You can even use it to kill their Balinks to some degree. I don't think that that's really worth it. I think hitting a Gazelle has a lot more value because if you prevent them from dumping a card, oh, that's pretty huge. And if they don't have spinning available, the turn is really cut short. Then there's Danger Thunder Dragon. There's multiple areas where you can hit this. They have multiple hand traps. Consider your various targets carefully. One thing you can hit is the Guard Dragon LP. Once you take out LP out of the picture, there's really no real problem with the Guard Dragon package. They might still go into Aggro Pain if they already have a Saryuja out, but otherwise, if you can hit the Saryuja, you can hit the Saryuja. If you hit the Saryuja, you don't have to deal with a colossal board where there's Colossus, a bunch of negates, rip your hand apart. That all can basically be turned off. But the best choice is usually the one where you leave your opponent with at least one Guard Dragon on the field and they can't get rid of it, and then they're stuck. Because Guard Dragons lock him into playing only dragons, so there won't be any thunder, and it's going to be a little bit of a problem for them. Just a little bit. Sky Striker, you can use it on any of their Link monster effect or the Raid Tag effect more ideally, because on the Raid Tag effect, that is the one time that they cannot use Eco Booster to protect. So if you Gamma them on that, then nothing comes out, so you have a bit of an empty board to play with. And against Orcust, you can hit their Mermaid really early on, and they can't call with a Grave, and that will just end their turn. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Or you can hit on the Bardiche or the Galatea, whatever this floats your boat. Next, we have Epidemic Virus. I guess this is mainly for dark decks to tech in to destroy some of the back row. Against True Draco, there's two things you can potentially hit. If you want to hit traps or destroying some of the floodgates, remember, these decks aren't just in purely a single build. They play a lot of support, and the supports for True Draco would be the annoying floodgates that they have backing them. They have probably... the Monarchs Erupt. If you see that they have no extra deck, that's something to expect. And if you just can't play without any effects, maybe consider blowing that out. Then we have spells. You can cripple them for their turn, because if they play Terraforming, their field spell, the True Draco Phoenix spell, or their True Draco Heritage, you can block out a lot of draws. You just blow them up from their hand so that they don't even count towards the count limit for Heritage, so that if they do add another copy of Heritage, it doesn't even matter at that point. They just completely lost. And you can even take out Card of Demise, and that just completely cripples them down. So hitting a spell just might win you the game to some degree. Subterrors, you can try to hit spells early on to stop them from setting up, because Hidden City is a very powerful card, and Hidden City does set up most of their turn, which also leads to Terraforming. Yeah, and there's also Pot of Extravagance. So there's a lot of synergy-based cards that you can hit by hitting spells. I don't recommend hitting the traps, because they're just going to search out most of the traps anyways. And I don't think they're exactly too trap heavy. But if you want to block out some of the floodgates, like there can be only one, then yeah, go ahead and call traps. This is one of the more diverse traps if you're playing like a dark deck or any deck that has access to 2500 attack or higher dark monsters. Against Danger Thunder Dragon, it's pointless because we don't run traps, and the only spells we have is Sekka's Light. Yeah, kind of pointless. Sky Strikers, just blow out all the spells. It just makes the game so much simpler. They'll have like a lot less cards, since their deck is made up of what? I don't know, 3/4 of all spells? So yeah, there's that. And against Orcust, it's iffy. I give this one a bit of a dash, because spells in the early game is the only time you can hit it. Otherwise, you have to hit traps during the end phase. And if they go into Phoenix, they might just destroy the card. And since most of those traps there search, you're not going to be able to do anything. So you still might be stuck hitting with spells if you did side this card in. I don't recommend siding these cards in. If they have a dash, I don't recommend siding it in for those matchups. There's just better options entirely. Next, we have No Materia. If you're willing to fork the money for No Materia and you're going to sack into it early game, remember, you have to control no cards to activate this card, which makes it very difficult. Against True Draco Subterra, just forget about it. Don't even side it in. It's a dead card for you, and you just don't want this card whatsoever. And then for Salamangreat, I really don't know what to hit on this one. To some degree, I've just started to hit the Spinny that gets summoned out from the graveyard. Why the Spinny? Because if you make sure the Spinny stays on the field, usually it's a Gazelle and a Spinny. That means you block them off from going into Mirage Stallion. Without Mirage Stallion, that usually means there isn't any Jack Jaguar, and if Spinny is now removed from the field, it gets banished. And if you get that Spinny banished, it just means harder for them to loop, especially when they don't have a Jack Jaguar to loop to begin with. That makes things, to me, a lot easier. I get that if you try to hit anything else, you're like, oh, they'll just go ahead and just make a Sunlight Wolf and Sunlight Wolf into a Sunlight Wolf, and they'll just play around it. Well, you can go into Sunlight Wolf, but without Jack Jaguar, you're not getting very much value out of your cards anyway. I guess that you can end with a much weaker turn, and if Spinny dies, it makes life a lot easier because they haven't really gotten back their Gazelle just yet. So, a lot easier. As for Danger Thunder Dragons, hit the LP, it's very funny. Or you can hit the White and Black Dragon. You can, to some degree, even hit B-Cop or the Lenfornicus. You just lock them out of their extra monster zone, and it really just cripples them down. If you hit the stuff in the extra monster zone, you know that the Hieratic Seal of Heavenly Spheres, even if they have that on the field, they can't use its effect because it's not in the extra monster zone, so you don't get that bounce. So there are intricate ways to lock them out, but locking them into LP is probably one of the better ways, because if you lock them into LP, they can't get rid of it, and they can't tribute it. If they don't have Darkest Diablos to tribute it off, it's pretty brutal, I have to say. Just because locking into LP, no, only things that you can summon is dragons, so you're under like a significant limit. And the arrows of LP by itself, not exactly the best either. So yeah, there's that. And you're unlikely to go into Aggro Pain. Like, sure, you can still go into Saryuja, but what's the point of summoning all these weaker dragons? I guess you can still technically go into Levianeer, but by that time, it's not even that threatening anymore. The board that they finish off with is not as deadly, for sure. But what are your targets for no material for the Danger Thunder Dragon deck? Because you're going to see a lot of Danger Thunder, trust me. This is going to be one of the most rampant decks out there. With it winning basically, I think most of the regionals in our area in North America, they were won by Danger Thunder Dragon back to back to back, week after week. Like different builds, sure, but it's still the same thing kind of going over and over again. And now it's just so diverse now, and with the Crusadia Magius added to the deck, they have easier light access so that they can easily combo off. Then we have Sky Striker. You can just hit the Link monster, preferably if you hit the Hayate, and the combo of hitting into the Hayate is that now when you go into Brotor combo with your Danger Thunder Dragon, you can target that to add your spell cancel and then make that blowout. So if you run both spell cancel and no material, there's your combo right there. It's like, how am I supposed to lock them into Hayate? Well, no material might be your answer. And against Orcas, just hit the Phoenix or the Cerberus when they try to do the Mermaid play. That is a really significant choke point. What a choke it is. But if they go into Galatea straight up because they opened with the Harp Horror or any of the other Orcus monster, then hit the Galatea, lock the Galatea into the extra monster zone, and without them being able to link her off, it's going to be difficult for anyone to make any significant plays because you're not going to go into the Bardiche anymore. It's very difficult to go into the Bardiche, so they're not dealing with Fog Blades anymore, and yeah, there isn't exactly any problems to kind of work around a very weak board. Then for my personal tech, why am I choosing Abyss Dweller as my personal tech, and I'll explain. Well, against True Draco, you can make it a lot more difficult to break the boards. Like, seriously, it's a lot harder to break the board if your graveyard effects don't work, and you can turn off a lot of graveyard effects thanks to Abyss Dweller, which is why it's a nice choice. If you're playing Salamangreat, you can also consider doing that to the True Draco player, because it's absolutely worth it. I know you can blow up a lot of their cards, but the grave effects is where it hurts, so I think Abyss Dweller does a significant job on this. And I'm siding it in. I'm playing Danger Thunder Dragon, and I'm siding this thing. I take out my Unicorn for this card, because if I ever get hand trapped where I can't make anything, and the funny thing is I play the Mothman now. With the Mothman, if I ditch my copy of Jackalope, I'll summon out the Mothman. If I summon out a Battering Man, I just go into a Dweller. And if I'm playing a matchup against Orcus, I'm playing a matchup against Danger Thunder Dragons, I'm playing against like Salamangreats, I have a potential just skip their turn thanks to Abyss Dweller, and I'm not likely going to die because they don't have their grave effects to play with. And that can be enough to win the game, which is very funny. It's like, oh, I got Lancea, oh, I can't really do anything. I guess I'll just make this Dweller that came out, and I was like, oh, you play Dweller? How do you even fit it in your extra deck? Well, I don't fit it in my extra deck. I just don't play a third Phantasme, and I put one copy of Abyss Dweller just for this occasion. That's why I chose Abyss Dweller. It's kind of like using Sanaphon, but I think it's better than Sanaphon. Against Subterror, not very good. Against Salamangreat, they can't combo. Remember, Salamangreat versus Salamangreat, I feel like the first turn they do is that, oh, I'm just going to go ahead and drop the Abyss Dweller on my opponent so that they can't play. Yeah, which is fair game. It's fair game. It's a fair choice. Danger Thunder Dragon, you lock the Thunders so that the Thunder effects, they have to activate through banishing. You can't activate any of the Danger effect that gets discarded. So if you get lucky and pluck a couple Danger cards in their hand, you're gonna win the game. And the white and black dragons, they don't search, so it's hard to get off the first Beat Cop or Land for Linkus combo, which leads into the Saryuja. It's basically that guard dragon combo is basically turned off. It's not gonna work. It's delayed until they can get rid of that Abyss Dweller. Sure, that Dweller isn't going to live in most cases, but because they summon a danger, they'll just kill it. But luckily, you can just chain your effect way beforehand during like draw phase or standby phase. Sky Striker, you do have one application against them, which is if Ray is sent from, I guess Ray activating from the graveyard, You can turn that off so that you have a much safer swing against some of the link monsters that they leave onto the field. Or you can turn off like Metal Foes Fusion, and you can potentially even turn off Area 0 so that when Area 0 is sent to the graveyard, there is no effective follow-up. So yeah, that's a fun thing to do too, which does give you a little bit of tempo, maybe minor little advantages, but these are the minor advantages that you need to secure your victory. And against Orcus, of course, Dweller is like a super one-sided card without any graveyard effects. What are they going to do exactly? So yeah, there's that complete lockout, and they need to be able to banish by using effects in the graveyard. So that is my line of guess side cards that you can use for the upcoming large tournaments, and I guess this will be the last one I do for this current format, and then we'll see a new one in the upcoming format once the new ban list kicks in. I guess we got some ban list coverage to come up. We got new cards coming with the Battle of Legends. There's so many new things gonna happen, and I'm looking forward to the Revolver Rockets and Marine Cest. That's gonna be shifting the meta as well. I guess I'm kind of deviating from the current topic, but does my choices make sense? Leave it down in the comment section below. Let me see if I can come back in here since most of my talk is done. So that would be my analysis for these 6 side cards that I consider to be some of the best sides that you can have in the current format. I know Abyss Dweller is a bit of a stretch. I think some of you guys already main deck it, but if it's effective against you, it's going to be effective against other people that play like you. So that is that. If you guys enjoyed this segment, hit me up with a thumbs up. If you guys want to see more stuff like this and see more videos from MST.TV, hit that subscribe button, ding that notification bell, and I'm going to be going on vacation next week. I'm going to be gone for a little bit, so I'm just going to announce it right now. Just to stay tuned for that. Don't forget that there are Battle Wasp proxies available on the Discord server, and if you guys feel like supporting this channel, don't forget to check out the Patreon link down in the description below so I can make, well, not the 6x6 chart, but my usual like 27 by like 7 chart so that you guys can get a full analysis of over the meta of what you should side. Because remember, I personally believe that Yu-Gi-Oh should be played in matches. I get that you want to test out your game 1 so that you know how to play your game 1s, but remember, game 2s and 3s is what wins big tournaments. Alright guys, so that is all I got for this one. So until next time, I'll see you guys in the next one. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please drop us a like so we know we are doing a good job, and you can also subscribe to MST.TV for more fantastic videos by clicking on the button on the left. Don't forget to check out our partners at Imperium Duelist. They make really high quality mats, including some of my own limited edition release stuff. And if you want to check out one of our past videos, click here on the right. As always, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV, and I'll see you next time.